Hey guys, the Blood Husky here, and today we are going to be doing creepypasta reading. Today's creepypasta is Laughing Jack, and as you can see, my wall right there will be my creepypasta wall. So, here we go. No, I don't have anything like the cover. Wait, yes, I do. No, I don't. Okay. It was a nice summer day. My 5-year-old son James was playing outside in the backyard of our suburban home. James, James has always been a quiet boy. He plays by himself mostly. He never had many friends, but he has always had a wild imagination. I was in the kitchen feeding our dog Fudo when I heard what sounded like James talking to someone in the backyard. I'm not sure who it was or could be talking to. Could he have made a friend? Being a single mom, it's hard for me to keep my eye on my son, so I decided to go check on him. Running into the backyard, I was confused because James was the only person out there. Was he talking to himself? I could have sworn I heard another voice. "James, it's time to come inside," I called out to him. He came inside. I sat down on the kitchen table. It was about lunchtime, so I decided to make him a turkey sandwich. "James, who are you talking to out there?" I asked. James looked up for a moment. "I was talking with my new friend," he said, smiling. I poured him some milk and continued to pray, as any good mother would. "Does your friend have a name? Why don't you ask him to come have lunch with us?" I asked. James stared at me a moment before replying, "His name is Laughing Jack." I was a bit taken by what he had said. "Oh, that's a strange name. What does your friend look like?" I asked, a bit confused. "He's a clown. He has long hair and a big swirly nose. He's got long arms and baggy pants with striped stockings, and he always smiles." I realized my son was talking about an imaginary friend. I suppose it's normal for kids his age to have imaginary friends, especially when he has no real friends to play with. It's probably just a phase. The rest of the day went by as went by as per usual, and it was starting to get late, so I put James to bed. I tucked him in, gave him a kiss, and made sure to turn on his nightlight before I closed the door. I was pretty tired myself, so I decided to go to bed not long after. I had an awful nightmare. It was dark. I was in some kind of rundown amusement park. I was scared, running through an endless field of empty tents, broken down rides, and abandoned game huts. The whole world looked The world had a horrible look to it. Everything was black and white. The price of animals all hung from noses in the game huts, all with sick grins stitched on their faces. It felt like the whole park was looking at me. Even though what even though there wasn't anything living there wasn't another living thing in sight. Then suddenly I began to hear music play. The sounds of Pop Goes the Weasel being played on a squeeze box echoing through the park. It was hypnotizing. I followed its tune to the circuit tent, almost in a trance. Unable to stop my legs from moving, it was pitch black. The only light came from a single spotlight shining in the center of the big top. As I walked to the light, the music slowed down. I found myself singing along, unable to stop. Sorry. All around the mulberry bush, the monkey chased the weasel. The monkey thought it was all in fun. The music stopped right before its climax, and suddenly the light shot on. The intensity of the light was practically blinding. All I could see was small dark silhouettes shuffling towards me. Then another one appeared, and another, and another. Then there were dozens of them, all coming towards me. I couldn't move. My legs were frozen. All I could do was watch as the haunting figures drew near me. As I got closer, I could see they were children. As I looked at one, I noticed that they were all horribly disfigured and mutilated. Some had cuts all over his body, others were severely burnt, and others were missing limbs, even eyes. The kids enveloped me, clawing at my flesh, dragging me to the ground, and tearing inside me. As a child, Children tore me apart. I faded away. All I could hear was laughter. Horrible, awful, evil laughter. I woke up the next morning in a cold sweat. In a cold sweat. After taking a few deep breaths, I looked over and saw that a few of James' action figures were positioned facing me at the top of my nightstand. I sighed. James had probably woken up early and put those there. I gathered up his toys and made my way to James' room. However, when I opened the door, James was sound asleep. I shrugged and placed the toys back in his toy box. I headed out to the living room. A little while later, James woke up and I made him breakfast. He was quiet, seemed a bit groggy. Perhaps he didn't sleep well either. I decided to I decided to ask about the toys. Honey, did you put the toys in Mommy's room this morning? His eyes shut up for a minute, then quickly glanced at the cereal. Laughing Jack did. I rolled my eyes and responded, well, you tell Laughing Jack to keep the toys in your room. James nodded and finished up his breakfast, then decided to go play out in the backyard. I went to relax in the living room. I must have dozed off because I woke up a couple hours later. Shit! I need to check on James. I was a bit worried. It had been over 2 hours. I hadn't checked on him. Stepped outside into the backyard, but James wasn't there anymore. I was getting nervous, so I called him out. James? James, where are you? Just then, I heard a gilling come from the front yard. I rushed through the gate around the front yard. James was sitting on the sidewalk. A breath of, I breathed a sigh of relief. Walked over to him. James, how many times have I told you to stay in the backyard? James, what are you eating? James looked up at me, reaching into his pocket and pulled out a handful of hard candies in all colors. It made me nervous. James, who gave you that candy? James just stared at me, not speaking. James, please tell Mommy where you got that candy. James hung his head down and said, Laughing Jack gave it to me. My heart sunk. I kneed down, looking at him in the eye. James, I've had enough of this damn Laughing Jack thing. He is not real. Now, this is a serious situation. I need to know who gave you the candy. I could see my son's eyes tearing up. But Mama, Laughing Jack did give me the candy. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. James had never lied to me, but what he's telling me is impossible. I make him spit out the candy and I throw the rest away. James appears to be fine. Maybe I'm just overreacting. After all, he could have gotten it from Tom and Linda from next door, or Mr. Walker down the street. Either way, I'm going to have to keep a close eye on James. That night, I put James to bed as usual and decided to go to bed early myself. Suddenly, I woke up to a loud bang coming from the kitchen. I sprung out of bed and hurried down the stairs. When I got to the kitchen, I was horrified. Everything on the counter had been thrown to the floor. A dog, Fudo, hung dead from the light fixture. His stomach was cut open and stuffed with candy. The same time that James was eating earlier that day. My shock was completely broken by a sharp scream from James' room following by loud crashes. I quickly grabbed a knife from the drawer and moved up to the stairs with the speed that only a mother whose child is in danger could have. I burst through the door and flicked on the light. Everything in his room was knocked over, tossed on the floor. My poor son in bed, crying, shaking with fear. A pool of urine stained his sheets. I scooped my child and ran out of the house and went next door to Tom and Linda's. Luckily, they were still awake. They only used their phone to call the police. It didn't take them long to arrive. I explained what happened. They looked at me if I were crazy. They searched the house, but all they found was a dog dead and two trash rooms. The officer told me that someone had probably gotten into the house and done this right before making a quick escape. Sorry. When they heard me coming upstairs, I knew it wasn't true. All the doors were locked and none of the windows were open, but whatever was in my house didn't come from outside. The next day, James stayed inside. I didn't want him to leave my sight. I went into the garage and found his old baby monitor. Set it up in his room. If anything comes into his room tonight, I'd be able to hear it. I went to the kitchen and grabbed the largest knife from my drawer, put it on my nightstand. Imaginary friend or not, I'm not letting anyone hurt my little boy. Soon enough night came. I put James to bed. He was afraid, but I promised him that I wasn't going to let anything happen to him. I tucked him in, gave him a kiss, and turned on his nightlight before closing the door. I whispered to him, "Good night, James. I love you." I tried to stay up for as long as I could, but after a few hours I felt myself drifting off. My baby was asleep for the night, and I needed to sleep. I lay on my head on the pillow. I heard a soft noise come from the baby monitor. I had put mine on my nightstand. At first, it was sound like interference, like the kind of radio would make. Then it turned to a soft moan. Was James asleep? Then I heard it. The laughing from my nightmare, the horrible laugh. I sprung out of my bed, grabbed the knife under my pillow. I rushed to James' room and creaked the door open. I tried for the light, but it wouldn't come on. I took a step in, and I could feel a warm liquid at my feet. Suddenly, James' nightlight came on. I could see the absolute horror laid out in front of me. James' body was nailed to the wall. The nails pierced through his hands and feet. His chest was cut wide open and his organs hung down to the floor. His eyes and tongue had been removed along with most of his teeth. It was disgusting. I could hardly believe this was my baby boy. Then I heard it again. The soft, desperate moan. James was still alive. My baby. My poor baby. It is so much pain, barely clinging to life. I ran across the room and vomited on the floor, but my sickness was interrupted by a horrible cackling coming from behind me. I spun around while still whipping bile from my mouth. Then out of the showers emerged the fiend responsible for this horror, Laughing Jack. His ghost white skin and matted black hair hung down to his shoulders. He had piercing white eyes surrounded by dark black rings, his twisted smile rolling a deep row of sharp teeth. His skin didn't look like skin at all. It looked like rubber or plastic. He wore a patchy black-white clown outfit with striped sleeves and socks. His body itself was unexplainable, his long arms hanging down past his waist, and the way that he positioned himself made him look almost boneless, like a rag doll. He let out a sickening laugh, as if to let me know he was pleased with the reaction of his work. He then turned around slowly in front of James and began to laugh even more at the horrific sight he had laid out. That was enough to shake my terror away. I snapped, "Get away from me, you bastard!" I rushed to the monks, raising my knife above my head, stabbing him down. As soon as the knife touched him, he disappeared into a cloud of black smoke. The knife passed right through him and pierced James' still beating heart. The splashing of warm blood on my face. No. What have I done? My baby. I killed my baby. Immediately, I fell to my knees. I could hear sirens from the distance, growing louder. My boy. My sweet baby boy. I promised Mommy would protect you, but I failed. I'm sorry, James. I'm so sorry. Police soon arrived to find me in front of my son, still bleeding with the knife covered in my baby's blood. The child was shot and the child was short insanity. I was placed in I have no clue what the fuck that is, house for criminally insane, where I would have to go for the past 2 months. It's not so bad here. The only reason I'm awake now is because someone is playing Pop Goes the Weed outside my window. I'll talk to Orioles about it in the morning. That's it, you guys. To be honest, he is my favorite. Yeah. I do it really quickly because I only have 15 minutes to do this, but yeah. Uh, the way first day I heard it, it was just like a mail, like James, tell Daddy who gave you this and shit. Yeah, but yeah, this is gonna be going on my creepypasta wall. I have lots of creepypastas, so I bet you guys will be very happy to see that. And I'm gonna go. I will most likely make another video today, and well, bye my puppies.